So much, Julianne, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final lecture in our series, Innovation Gainesville, where we've been exploring the activities at our world-renowned innovation hub, UF Innovate. Today's speaker, Alex Meadows, comes to us from Raytheon Company, a global technology and innovation leader specializing in defense, civil government, and cybersecurity solutions. In 2018, Raytheon joined the University of Florida's Raytheon College of Engineering in a cooperative program called the Integrated Product and Process Design, IPPD, a two-semester course for UF engineering students to develop new software, learn more about secure coding practices, and better understand systems engineering. It subsequently became a resident client of UF Innovate's The Hub. Alex is a Raytheon Principal Systems Engineer with honors, as well as a Regional Innovation Scoreboard leader and former director of a global business innovation organization promoting innovation, empowering employees, and providing access to technology. He's also an adjunct professor in the Purdue School of Engineering and Technology at Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis, for which he was the 2016 Distinguished Alumnus. He served in the US Army in artillery and transportation and holds a BS in engineering physics and an MS in electrical and computer engineering. During his 3 years of leadership and innovation, Alex helped to grow the new organization to 28 people across 16 locations domestically and in the UK. He also oversees a portfolio of projects driving rapid development and prototyping of technologies to support key business mission area needs. Alex has directed quarterly innovation challenges with participation across the Raytheon enterprise and around the world, and hosted innovation and strategy workshops, which informed and modified business strategy. So today, Alex will be speaking to us on human talent, the pipeline of innovation. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much. And thanks for that wonderful introduction. That guy sounds amazing. I'd like to meet him.
I think I left out a few interesting tidbits too, but you'll tell us all about it.
I'll attempt to anyway. Everyone has an interesting story. All right. So I'm Alex Meadows. Thanks again very much for this opportunity to come and talk. This is a different kind of presentation than I think I've ever given at a university, but I'm excited to do it. Also, I drink a lot of caffeine and I talk really fast. So tell me if I need to slow down. So the topic today, human talent, the pipeline of innovation. Sorry, looks like there's an Amber Alert locally. All right, good. Right, so I would style myself here as an innovator, an engineer, a technologist, and a teacher. I started off with this picture, which was one of the high points of my career. Hopefully not the high point of my career, since it was several years ago, and there's hopefully more coming. But this was one of the high points of my career after two other engineers and I founded this innovation organization called the Innovation Center that you mentioned in the introduction. We received an award from our president of the company at the time, Dave Waisgrass, and this was a picture of that moment. So from left to right, Sarah Law, who's now a tech director in Raytheon Technologies, myself, now US innovation champion for global innovation in the company, Kate Maxwell, who is now the CTO of Defense and Intelligence for Microsoft's worldwide public sector, and then Dave Waisgrass, who was the president at the time. So let's move right on. So here's my my header or my list of events, I guess, and some caveats. So first, a quick introduction, then we'll talk a little bit about the pipeline of talent, the competition for talent, and then a little bit of examples and truth in action for my experiences in innovation and Raytheon. My caveats are, this is my perspective, not exactly paid programming from Raytheon, just my observations from working in innovation for Raytheon and across multiple different business types in my career. I'd say it's not the final word, it's more of an opening conversation, especially since this is the first time I've given this presentation. And I would say if this presentation were software, you would all be beta testers. So thanks very much for being a part of the beta test group. And then on the right, a couple pictures of my own personal pipeline of innovation. My son, Max, who's about 2 in that picture, is now about 6. And my daughter, Fiona, who also about 2 in that picture, is now 10. I love that picture in the middle because it kind of talks about kind of our expectation of the pipeline of talent and how much earlier in a person's life they're expected to have some understanding of technology and develop skills, right? When I was 2, I certainly wasn't doing anything in virtual reality or probably anything with much technology at all other than maybe a rock and a stick, right? But my son Max, here he is in virtual reality exploring a virtual version of our house that I had created to figure out where to plant trees for the summertime. But he was in there just wandering around, exploring, and loving it. I like to use this picture at work as an advertisement for VR, so easy even a child can do it. So here's a little bit of a brag page, I guess, or something for me. I've worked in a lot of industries, as Paula mentioned. In the DoD space, I started out in the Army, was in artillery first, then became retrained as a truck driver, so went from gun to target, which is always interesting. Worked for Litton back when that was a company before Northrop Grumman bought them, and then for Northrop Grumman. I will say that as far I don't know, maybe a good analogy for another day. When I sat down a few months ago to start thinking about how people are a part of innovation and how do we engage them in a business, being a systems engineer, I love alliteration and I love acronyms. And so, I kind of slowly got onto this kick of everything starting with an F. And so here's my first view of it. And I think there's these different talent pools, or these different people pools, and one of them is future, and that's a very important one for business and for innovation. That's the upcoming employees who are typically coming from universities or maybe from high school, but they bring with them these fresh perspectives and new ideas, new takes on technology. When I brief students, and even when I brief in Raytheon, I often mention that as we bring in students, we really need them in industry because they typically are going to be much more familiar with kind of cutting edge, especially commercial technology, than the people who've been in our company for several decades. When VR became a thing two or 3 years ago, we had some people in the company who were interested in it, but people who were coming directly from school had been marinating in it at the university, experiencing it, running projects with it, trying lots of different new things with it, kind of unencumbered by having to meet deadlines. So they're a great source of new ideas and new technology. From an innovation perspective, there's lots of ways that we can engage with them. Have always tried to push our employees to these opportunities to be guest lecturers like this, both professional presentations and also technical, where they're actually teaching technical content and skills. Being an adjunct professor, sponsoring capstone projects. Raytheon sponsors a lot of projects. I personally have sponsored about 20 or 30 through Raytheon at local universities. Across Raytheon, I'm sure it's thousands of projects have been sponsored, maybe hundreds a year at least. And we also seek research partnerships, like with the University of Florida and with many other tier 1, tier 2 schools across the United States and the world, to do that fundamental research that brings capabilities into our technology stack that eventually become parts of products that we sell to our customers. And then, of course, being a member of advisory boards, such as the Industrial Advisory Board or Dean's Industrial Council, things of that nature, where we can shape the curriculum and insert the industry careabouts, very important opportunities. It's also the fresh talent is another huge engagement point for innovation. These are our interns every year and also our new hires. They're looking to kind of get engaged with the company, right? They're learning so many things at this point. They thought they were learning for 4 years in university, but once they hit the ground running in the company, now they're learning about the company, they're learning about their job, they're learning about the industry, and they're really learning about themselves and how they work with others. A lot of companies spend a lot of time integrating and training and teaching those people, and we want them to stay. However, the 1 to 5 year population of employees is probably the most volatile in most large companies. It's been my experience anyway. So how can we engage them from innovation, making the challenges accessible? I think there's a belief when employees first start that maybe they can't contribute as much as the employees who've been there for a few decades, but that's not necessarily the truth. Like I said before, that future talent that's coming in, they bring these fresh new perspectives on technology and capabilities that maybe we've been too much down in the trenches to realize was even an opportunity for the company. A new way of looking at things. Oh, did you know that this new chip capability came out last year and we should be using it to solve this problem? Maybe we didn't know. Obviously, that's variable. It depends on what pockets of the company you're in. R&D probably is closer to the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of technology, but in the trenches, not so much. So what can we provide from innovation? Workshop participation, accessible challenges. So making sure that as we're running innovation challenges across the business, we're including those new populations and really advertising and marketing to them to say, yes, you should be a part of it, and team up with other people who maybe are more senior or who are like yourselves. And then workshop participation. As I'll mention later, when we ran those innovation workshops that Paula alluded to earlier, diversity and inclusion was a very big part of the planning of that. We would bring employees in from all across the United States, from all different disciplines, all different points in their career, both new hires, senior fellows, everybody in between, races, religions, political affiliation, mission areas, et cetera. We bring them all from all different parts, all different diversity angles, in order to get the best possible ideas and innovation and to get the best pinging between those different groups. So that's a good place to bring them in as well. And then, of course, coaching and mentoring is a great opportunity with those new hires. And I will say that of all the new hires I've mentored through the years, there's never been a mentoring relationship with a new hire when I didn't learn something, right? I always learned something from them just as I was trying to get them up to speed. So that's good. And then there's the former group. So these are the, I'll say the employee alumni, and they're kind of important. We spend a lot of cycles thinking about them. Oh, why did they leave? Where are they going? You know, what are we going to do to fill their role now, et cetera. It's important, I think, to recognize that in the digital information age, everybody is a reporter. I have a cell phone, right? And so does everyone. I have 2 cell phones, and so do many other people. Everybody, anywhere, at any time is a reporter live on the scene. And those former employees become ambassadors of your company and representatives, whether you like it or not. They have a story to tell about your company. It might as well be a good story. We've always, from the innovation perspective, I've always seen these former employees as an opportunity. They're going out and proselytizing the rest of the world in the way that we do business, helping to create potential free agents that will be coming back to our company. They themselves will probably go out for a while, experience something new, get some new perspectives and technology experience, maybe experience in other industries, and then come back kind of through that free agent route there back into the company. I think it's not goodbye, it's a see you later. And a lot of times so this is maybe a little bit less what innovation does, but what companies should do. You know, review for real what their problems are, what made them leave, how can we change that? But then also be a reference to them, give them recommendations, and maintain a relationship with them. A lot of former employees in innovation, we've seen a lot of employees that move on to do exciting things in commercial, but they will send people back to us, or they'll reach back to us for opportunities to partner their new company with ours. So gone but not forgotten. Free agents, kind of from partners from other industries. And then forever is really, as I thought about it, it's really a destination, not really a group. You know, we don't really know that somebody has been a forever employee until they retire and then they're not an employee anymore. So it's kind of like infinity. You don't ever get there, but you know what direction it's in. But as I was looking at this, when I first made it a few months ago, I thought, you know, something is missing here, right? There's another group of employees, and what will I call them? Well, the obvious name, of course, is forgotten, the forgotten employees in the middle. I think this is a trap that some companies can fall into. And as you'll see, I think that there will always be a group that is the forgotten group. But that's a real opportunity for innovation to reach out, right? These are, you know, companies spend a lot of time bringing in new talent, retaining, maybe a little less time retaining talent, but hopefully retaining talent. We spend a lot of cycles thinking about those former employees. Where are they going? What are they doing? Why did they leave, et cetera? But maybe there's a group in the middle that's just, you know, they're already onboarded. They know the company, they know the culture, they know the job. They're just kind of heads down working, you know, generating value over and over and over again. This is kind of like the Apple IIe group, right? From back in the day in Apple. That's just, you know, kind of creating that product that the company relies on to be able to fund everything else. But they can be forgotten. That caused a lot of tension for Apple when you know, Steve Jobs set up his kind of project team to generate the Macintosh. That Apple IIe team was kind of the forgotten group. But this is an opportunity for innovation to provide a forum and a voice to reach out to that group and get them connected again, give them that perspective across the company, which I'll tell you in a bit is, I think, the most important part of our organization was the connectivity and perspective. Recognizing the talent and the capabilities that they're bringing, and then giving them fun again, right? The fresh employees, when they come in, they're having a lot of fun. They're getting a lot of interaction. They have these opportunities to meet leadership, to meet each other, go out to socials, et cetera. The forgotten group kind of misses out on that, I think, sometimes. So what we want is to bring them back to the focused group. And look at that. I managed to get an F in every single one of them. Not good in school, but good in presentations. And the focus group is where I think the innovation organization really spends most of its energy in empowering those people who are in the trenches and seeing opportunities, giving them opportunities for career and personal growth, connectivity and perspective, and then also keeping them having fun. People who are having fun, maybe they're not more productive, but they're a lot more fun to be around. That's for sure. Everyone enjoys that more. The connectivity in a very large company like Raytheon, I think, is the most important part of what we provide in the innovation organization. And it's from those relationships. Time and time again, we would have employees bring us ideas that were unrelated to the work that they were doing, but they were still valuable ideas, but they had no idea. That's a lot of ideas. They didn't know what to do with that idea once they came up with it. They didn't realize that somebody 2 or 3 mission areas over had a need that this idea was a perfect fit for until we connected them together and then connected them with funding, connected them with subject matter experts, and connected them with technology that they needed to bring out that idea and prove a capability. That was where the real value came in innovation for us. All right, so that's that. So on to the continuous competition for talent. I am not an HR representative, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So I think we've seen with our newer populations, employee motivations are changing. And in order to maintain a healthy, happy, and productive workforce, we have to address the change of what those new employees are looking for. Millennials are now a pretty big part of our population, especially in the 0 to 5 year. And Gen Z is kind of coming on board. I've got some fun facts, thank you, from Boston University on the right over there for things about the graduates, 2021 graduates this year, some surprising and some interesting. But overall, I think my experience with our millennial group has been they really are looking for mobility more than anything else. They want to move around both in their jobs and in the world, right? They want to go on trips. They want to live in different places. They want to do different work for different companies, et cetera. In a very, very large company like Raytheon, I think we've been able to facilitate that without losing them, right? If you're tired of working in El Segundo, well, you can work in Boston, or you can work in Indiana, or Texas, or even possibly the South Pole, if that's something you want to do. But that's not an opportunity that every company has. But for Raytheon, 180,000 people in 300 locations now, that's more people than the population of Guam, which I think is startling. We have opportunity to move people around to different jobs and different locations, so that's good. But they're also looking for social purpose, and innovation plays a role in that. Since as an organization, we're kind of more toward the fringe of what the company does, looking for new uses of capabilities that were created for customers or for mainline products. We've had opportunities to run a few challenges with groups like oh shoot, I can't think of the name now. There's a really interesting organization in California we worked with who are looking for ways to solve problems using technology. Maybe I'll think of it later. I should have put it in. Anyway, there was an opportunity to connect with kind of a social responsibility angle, or what can we do that's good in the world purely for the good that it does for people, rather than just promoting the bottom line. Innovation, I think, can easily do that even in a large company where it may be more difficult when you're trying to meet schedules for customers and et cetera. Flexible work schedules and opportunity for growth. Opportunity for growth is a huge one for innovation because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times the ideas we've gotten from employees have not been strictly related to what they work on a daily basis. They want to learn skills about machine learning or something else. One of my favorite experiences with employees was when a woman in Omaha had an idea for how to use machine learning for predicting weather events. This was something very important to her, and she always wanted to learn about machine learning, but never had the opportunity in her job. But she had a great idea for that we funded through the innovation organization. And not only did we get some capabilities out that, get some more learning from what we could do with machine learning, but she was able to generate that as a skill. We connected her up with mentors who could teach her the specifics of how to apply the machine learning capabilities to this data set. She got better than 85% success rate on her first attempt, which was pretty amazing. And then a couple of years later, she was running whole IRADs in machine learning for the business. So this was a huge opportunity for her to grow in her own personal capabilities and also grow in her position inside Raytheon. And that's kind of the type of success story I love having in innovation. That's, I think, what innovation can do for the employees. Gen Z, according to a quick look on the internet, is looking for stability, purpose, meaningful work, and personal well-being. And I think a lot of those can line up with innovation as well. I'm still kind of learning myself how that's going to work with Gen Z, but I'm willing and interested. And I think as long as we're creating those relationships and maintaining our focus on people at the center, then we'll figure out what that looks like. So what should we really be looking for employees too? This is, as this is the first time I've given this talk, it is moving around a little bit around topics, but I love this quote at the bottom from Richard Branson, who's the Virgin Atlantic founder. Train people well enough that they can leave, but then treat them well enough so that they don't want to leave. What a great idea. We should definitely be doing that. And I think innovation is one of the parts of an organization that can do that, to help them with the training and create the fun environment they don't want to leave. As we're moving into these new populations, a lot of them are more driven by intrinsic motivation. And so Dan Pink is the author of Drive, if anyone's ever read that. His intrinsic motivations are, he names are autonomy, mastery, and purpose, which I hope we've all heard of. Autonomy is performing self-directed work. Mastery is learning better skills, and then purpose is kind of making a difference and doing work that is meaningful. I think these summarize pretty well why people do innovation, and certainly how we have implemented it in Raytheon. When someone comes with an idea, they bring an idea because they feel like it's valuable. It has purpose to them. We find a fit for it in the business that allows them to go out and develop a capability or explore whatever the idea is. And then we give them the autonomy to go and do that. We fund their time. We set up a team for them. They run it. We get them any technology that they need, subject matter expertise they need, make introductions as necessary, but they run the project from the beginning to the end. That gives them that autonomy. And throughout the process of that, they're learning those new skills that they want to know about, like the young lady from Omaha, and they're getting that mastery. So I think intrinsic focus is, intrinsic motivation rather, is a great opportunity for innovation in general. Dan Pink's research was based on a lot of studies done by MIT and other universities that found that extrinsic motivation was really, that is better pay, bonuses, et cetera, is really only effective for tasks that consisted of basic mechanical skills. And I think that's representative of how industry has built up in the world, from assembly to higher order functions. The motivations haven't changed to keep up with the way that we do the work. So what do we really want from employees? If you're in software engineering, maybe you've seen this before: laziness, impatience, and hubris. These don't sound like the qualities that you're looking for in an employee, unless you're Larry Wall, who was the author or the creator of Perl and the author of many programming books related to Perl. Laziness, hubris, and impatience were what he identified as the three virtues of a great programmer, a great Perl programmer originally, but really they apply to any of them. And why would we want that? It's kind of a different way of thinking about things. Laziness, so that they write reusable code, so we're not reinventing the wheel every time. And patience, so they write code that executes very quickly. And then hubris, because we want them to write and believe that they have written the best possible code that no one else can compete with. Kind of an interesting perspective on what we want to have employees. And then finally, hiring for empathy. We've done some work with Pivotal Labs. Of course, agile development and now DevOps and DevSecOps are becoming very much a focus in the DoD world for how we create software and even hardware products. Pivotal Labs has been a great partner in that for consulting on some of the extreme programming, such as paired programming. Pivotal Labs based in California, but they've got multiple different laboratories, I guess, Pivotal Laboratories in Chicago and other places. Hiring for empathy, when we talked to them, this was their number one requirement, was they wanted employees who had a lot of empathy and could understand how other people felt or why they believed certain things. They found that led to good work between paired programmers, which is, if you've seen paired programming, that's two people at one computer monitor, which has got to be strange for software engineers. We always think of them as head down on the keyboard, and they see somebody in the morning and maybe in the evening, and that's about it. Paired programming, you've got two people continuously talking through what they're trying to code, looking at each other's code. Only one person has a keyboard, but you kind of get continuous peer review, which generates better products. Even though you have twice the labor rate, you make it up on the end where your products are a lot better. Apparently, it's very, very taxing as well. Working 8 hours in paired programming, people just are exhausted by it. Maybe it's because a lot of them were introverts, not like an extrovert like me. But all right, then how do we compete for talent? And this is the most beta part of this whole presentation. These are my musings on how different businesses compete for talent. I'm willing to be wrong about this. Strong beliefs weakly held is something that I love. I will fight for what my belief is, but if you tell me that it's wrong and can convince me, then I'm willing to change. My perspective from these different organizations, we kind of compete on complexity, culture, compensation, and calling. Again, there's all C's. In defense and intelligence, we don't really compete very much on compensation because we are governed by the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations. Our margins are fixed by Congress, and so we can't really compete on cost. But people believe in the mission quite a bit, and that's the calling. We have a lot of veterans. We have a lot of people who really believe in protecting our company and not our company, our country, and our partner companies, or our countries around the world, our peers in the world. And the complexity is important too. I think that in defense and intelligence, we solve some of the hardest problems in the world in some of the most difficult spaces you can, in space and in rugged environments and in cyberspace. And these are very difficult. There are very difficult challenges in those spaces that are made even more difficult by where we're doing them. Don't compete as much on culture. Some of it is certainly, but not as much as other areas. I think big commercial though competes quite a bit on culture. If you think about people wanting to go work for Google and take half a Friday off to work on a project, that's a big culture thing. I know that the culture at Microsoft I keep hearing about quite a lot from one of their CTOs. The culture is amazing there. The way that they engage and empower employees, pretty incredible. And I think commercial is more able to compete on compensation as well. Is there complexity less than defense and intelligence? Not everywhere. I would say by and large, big commercial is working on quantum computing, which is a very difficult challenge, but not everybody in big commercial is working on that. Some people go to commercial to work on challenging problems, but I think they go mostly for the culture. My personal opinion again. Academia, I worked there. I think there's a great culture in academia, and also they're working on some cutting edge problems. Some of the really existential or really far out ideas for what can we do with superfluids and superconductors, and how can we change the property of materials to solve problems we didn't know we had a year ago. Not as much on compensation and calling, but there is that. And then small business, I think calling is pretty big, where I want to found a company to go and do something with 3D printing or what have you. But again, just a notional thought. So how do we drive people-centric innovation? I think we do that by empowering innovative people. As I mentioned before, when we're setting up our company or our business inside the company, our organization for innovation, it was really about creating innovative people and empowering those people to go forth and be innovative. And as a secondary effect, they also created value for the company. Now, of course, when you're in a for-profit business, you have to kind of wrap these in words the business will accept. And so sometimes we do have to accentuate the fact that, we do create value, but we believe that value came on the back end, and we were able to demonstrate it once we had the grace to run the organization for a couple of years through that, all the IP disclosures, through increasing the margins in one of our businesses 300% in 1 year. That I think paid for the whole organization. And also the dividends I think that we got out of innovation really are soft, right? They're more about creating a culture, a better culture where people want to work and want to go and explore new capabilities. It made people more satisfied, more likely to stay and to enjoy their work. Driving diversity and inclusion is extremely important. As I mentioned before, when we ran a lot of those workshops where we did investigate how is this particular technology going to impact our business in 5 years, and how do we capitalize on it, for instance, without going into the specifics of what it was. Having diversity in every metric was what gave us 40, of one workshop, we produced 40 different ideas for how our company was going to go forth and change their strategy and what types of things we should be investigating, and made a significant change to the company strategy through that. But I do believe it was because of that diversity that we built in from the beginning. Cultivating relationships is important. As I mentioned before, this was the single most important part of the organization, was providing that connectivity from people with ideas to people with needs, and then sprinkling in technology and subject matter expertise and some funding. You get that through having relationships. Also cultivating relationships with the executives in the company provided us with amazing opportunities. Earlier, I mentioned how we engaged interns and new hires specifically. Down there in Florida, in fact, one of our most successful challenges was around what can we be doing with virtual and augmented realities. We ran that across the business, had about 100 different teams that submitted ideas, selected 10 of those teams to be in a finalist round, sort of like a Shark Tank, where they developed their ideas a little bit further and then pitched them to a team of executives. the executives, including VPs of engineering and finance and research and development and technology, and then also in the training mission area. They selected, from those 10, selected 4 projects to fund. And of those 4 projects, 3 of them were exclusively composed of interns. And one of them, and the third one had an intern on the team as well. So interns were represented across all 4 of the winning submissions of the entire corporation of submissions. So I think that's a good proof point for how valuable it is to have early career people involved in innovation. And also the importance of maintaining relationships with execs, because they said, hey, go run the challenge on this topic down in Florida. And so we did. So providing connectivity, as I mentioned, very important. Then celebrating failures and successes. This is also very important in innovation. There's no innovation project that we funded that didn't have some risk associated with it. If there were 0 risk, it wouldn't be innovation. It wouldn't be research and development. It would just be regular, turn the crank work. And that's not to say that you can't get innovation out of turn the crank work, but it's not the focus of it. We have to accept failure because we have to accept risky projects, or it's not innovative and it's not giving us the potential for great reward. So we have to celebrate those failures, kind of take the sting out of it and say, yep, now we know we can't do it that way, but that's one fewer thing that we have to deal with. Now we can look at other possible successes and find your off-ramps so that as a project, you can find early when a project is going to be reduced to a result that doesn't work, off-ramp the people and the funding and start the next project and move on to the next potential failure or success. Not really any failures, even though we call them that, because even a negative result is still a success if you're trying to eliminate possibilities. And then teach, train, share, and support. Keeping people in the center is about engaging with those people, cultivating the relationships with them, teaching them, training them, sharing them, but continuing to support what they're doing, sharing their successes across the business and making sure that credit goes where credit's due, right? As an organization, we always wanted our advocates to source the ideas from people, but then really bring the people along so that their name is always connected with that idea as we shop it around the company and find a home for it. But overall, have fun too, because innovation, it is fun, let's face it. So now I guess the truth and action section, I want to end by talking a little bit more about the Innovation Center, which was that organization that we created. This was our charter slide that we came up with in 2017 when we started the organization, and then kind of modified it every year depending on how the organization changed. But it didn't change that much, right? It was, instead of creating an organization, it became developing it or growing it, et cetera. But the activities, sorry, the charter is in the middle there, I think, is what I used to rattle this off all the time, right? This was, what did we want to do? Provide a forum for collaboration, learning, exchange of ideas, empower employees of all functions, salary, and grades to go forth and innovate and grow, provide access to new and existing technologies, promote innovation across the business, and then promote innovation to emphasize Raytheon as a premier employer of innovative talent, because the new employees that are coming in, they want to work for an innovative company. And so they need to know that we do innovation. And we do. I think in the time that we started this organization, Raytheon was identified as number 1 or number 2 in the defense and aerospace for innovation, depending on which year you're looking at. So I think we had a definite impact at a company level for that. But it was always about people, maintaining enthusiasm and creating an environment for people to move ideas forward, connecting to technology, funding sources, subject matter experts, and a forum for idea exchange. Recognition, I think I glossed over earlier, but that's an important part too. It's not enough to fund an idea for somebody, but it's also important to recognize when there's innovation and innovative talent. We did this through the Innovation Center by having these annual Authors and Inventor luncheons, by taking winners to the Consumer Electronics Show, by giving out awards and having award ceremonies. We didn't just fund innovation projects. We had award ceremonies where we recognized that people had great ideas and we gave them a little plaque. And you would think that funding might be the most important thing, but even for a lot of our late career employees, we would give them a charge number. They wouldn't even use it. They just work on it on their own time, but they were overjoyed at just being recognized that their idea had value and had merit and that they could go and work on it. So the recognition is very important in innovation. So this was just another chart on kind of what we did in the organization. It really was a people story. So we're going to start with the people. When we built the organization, said, how can we engage with people specifically? At the time, it was by putting advocates, recruiting advocates at sites, at physical locations, recruiting somebody to part-time a month work on behalf of our organization to be the local contact point, to bring ideas in, to spread information at the site, but really just to be somebody that any employee could go walk up to that person and say, hey, I've got an idea, what do I do with it? And they would know how to start routing them through, filing intellectual property or talking to tech directors or subject matter experts, getting their idea into the organization for potential funding, et cetera. And when we ran innovation challenges, which we did every quarter across the entire business, they would host local events for brain freeze, they're brainstorming and workshopping around what the ideas they could be submitting are. We had 9,000 employees participate directly in projects across those 3 years, so which was pretty good. I think we ran 13 challenges in whenever I made this slide, with 550 ideas in, 66 sponsored, filed 82 IP disclosures. Typically, our offerings were innovation challenges and ideation workshops. The challenges usually were either focused on a specific business need or on a particular technology that we thought was potentially valuable. And then we also would run open challenges where we bring ideas in at any time and find a home for them. And then ideation workshops where we'd go work with a particular mission area to try to solve those problems or those areas that they needed focus in. And in a 2 or 3 day window, come up with a whole bunch of ideas that could be valuable for them. Sometimes it was about strategy, sometimes about marketing, sometimes it was about actual technology implementation. But we always had, for the business then, we always needed the transition path, which is there at the bottom. Employees come up with ideas, the Innovation Center helps them develop the idea, funds the project. That project then transitions into a mission area where it provides growth for the business, and eventually goes to the customer where it provides them with new capabilities, because customers buy capabilities. I believe that is the end of my presentation. So I'm open for questions, and hopefully there'll be a lot of them, and I will do my best to tap dance around answering them.
Okay. Well, Alex, thank you so much. That was fabulous. I think every company needs an Alex Meadows. That was very informative. I especially appreciated when you were talking about successes and failures, and how important it was to learn from either of those. I remember in my life as a research biologist, working with graduate students, just that would get a little discouraged by ideas not coming to fruition. And we used to always have to tell them, well, negative data is still data. It's still information, it's still valuable information, and it's now, that's a direction we don't need to pursue. We can do other things. So always important to have those failures as well as the successes.
Absolutely.
I was just curious what you think the biggest challenges are for companies that are that want to stay relevant, they want to grow, innovate, and draw people to further those goals. And if you have some glaring examples maybe of companies that did and did not do those things in the right way.
I think, recently I've been reading this really great book. So hold up here. It's called Loon Shots by Safi Bahcall. I don't know if anyone's ever read that, but fantastic book. And it talks exactly about that, and how in that book, he kind of divides innovation ideas into two realms, kind of the P-type product-based or technology-based innovation ideas, and the S-type strategy or process ideas. And what he would suggest, and I resonated a lot with this book, because as I was reading, I was thinking, oh my God, are they describing Raytheon? Actually, they were, because he starts out talking about one of the founders of Raytheon, who also started the research and development organizations during World War II for the U.S. government. companies a lot of times will be focused on kind of one or the other. And initially, the technology or the P-type innovations are kind of the glitz and the glamour of, hey, we built a bigger engine or a larger airplane, or this can move faster or do more. But there's that cycle as it keeps going around. They can kind of only go so far. And it's kind of like Moore's law, the Moore's law applied to whatever technology. At some point, it kind of slows down, and the gains you get kind of go away. And then the strategy innovations, the S-type innovations, kind of take over. So I guess it's important to, he would say, as he says in the book, watch your blind side for a company. You can't, to really be successful in the long haul, you can't be focused entirely on one or the other. The best example, I think, was Pan Am was very focused on P-type innovation, right? Making bigger planes and bigger engines. But at some point, when deregulation happened for the airline industries, he could no longer compete. That company could no longer compete with the myriad small businesses that were popping up kind of to eat their lunch. Meanwhile, for American Airlines, he was all about the S-type innovations. And when that happened, he said, oh, okay, well, all these little companies are going to need a tool to advertise their flights. So we'll just make a tool and we'll give it away free that will list every possible flight in the United States, but it'll happen to list all the American Airline flights first. Right. And so that was a very small strategic innovation that ended up getting them 67% of the market share for aviation, where at the time, I think 5% was considered to be a massive lead. So I guess watching your blind side and making sure you're investing in both P-type and S-type innovations, but I think reinventing yourself every so often and not being so stuck in your own ways that you're like, okay, this is the way we've been doing innovation for 15 years, so we'll keep doing it. Recognizing that at some point you have to change and say, how do we innovate ourselves? How do we change and adapt to the market? I think Raytheon's been doing that very well by looking at agile, DevOps, DevSecOps, and how do we change our business processes, streamline them to have smaller processes and faster execution. I know the head of Air Force's Research and Development Labs recently said that what they want is to buy from an app store and pay with a credit card. That's a complete paradigm shift from what the defense industry is used to doing in the past multiple decades.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me see if we've got any other questions here. I don't see any hands up, so I think that will do it for us for today. Alex, I very much appreciate your time here today. That was a really interesting talk. And, I think, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I think, here in Gainesville, we are just so fortunate to have such a wealth of talent here. And I see, as far as innovation, continuing to grow here. And I think we're all looking forward to hearing about what all is new coming out and taking advantage of everything. And so I wanted to thank you again for your time. And everybody, we will see you, I guess, in the fall. I'm hoping to get together a course on artificial intelligence. So I hope you'll all decide to tune in then. So if there are no more questions, thank you again, Alex, and have a good day, everyone, and we'll see you in the fall.
All right. Thanks very much, and keep innovating. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Paula, stay well, everyone.